The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Hi. Hi, Arlene. I'm fine. You good?
I'm good as well. I would like to welcome Azmi, Noorma, Areef and Sunny, Patani youth and also interns at the North-South Initiative in Malaysia. So today we are going to talk about the Patani, in the Southern Thai insurgency, with a focus on Patani. Perhaps a bit of introduction about your background before we start our conversation. We can start with Sunny here.
Oh, I'm Sunny. I'm from PSU, Thailand.
Okay, I'm Noorma and I'm fourth year student and I'm studying here in Malaysia.
My name is Areef Abu Bakar. I'm doing internship at North-South Initiative and from UAE.
Hi Arlene, how are you? By the way, I'm Azmi Wedoye. I'm from southern part of Thailand, which is Patani. So now I'm doing internship at NSI, and we are from third year students from UAE. And thank you very much for your warm welcome to Durian Asians.
Well, it's a big pleasure for me. It's interesting that in the news media, very rarely people actually talk about the situation in Southern Thai. But a lot of people might not aware that Southern Thai is still at war and a lot of things are happening. Maybe it's not as big as what is happening in other parts of the world, like in the Middle East. Speaking to four young Patanis here, who are also concerned about what is happening on the Southern Thai, perhaps we should go back to history and talk about why this is happening in the first place. So Patani, is Patani part of Thailand or has it been a country on its own in the past?
Okay, alright. Thanks for your question. I'm so surprised as well that so many people doesn't aware what is happening in Patani. But you know, most of the people they are aware what is happening in Arabic countries, in Palestine. But in Patani, it was overlooked and ignored by many people, even in by our neighbor countries as well. So today, before we further our discussion on the ongoing conflict in Patani, I would like to touch a little bit on the historical background of Patani. What is Patani or what Patani? This is the difference form between only one T and double T. So basically, even though Muslim is considered as a minority population in certain Patani, Narathiwat, Yala, and some part of Satun, but they are considered as majority population in these regions. In these regions, previously known as Patani. That means Yala, Patani, Narathiwat, previously known as Patani.
So Patani on its own is actually the whole four different area or district that in the past they refer to.
Yeah, it used to be a kingdom in the past, so we call as a Patani, only one T. But then if we refer to Patani, it's one of the province right now, which is like a part of Patani, the big one, big Patani. Yep.
Obviously, colonization as well as wars between neighboring countries in the past, in the ancient past, has affected the modern history of Patani today. So when it started to become such a big deal among people in Patani to sort of preserve their identity and their statehood?
Okay, I will touch a little bit. We have to recover back to the history again. Like I have mentioned before that Patani was a great kingdom before. And there are a lot of policies imposed by Thai authority to reduce the strength of Patani. From the kingdoms, divide into 7 small provinces, known as this policy known as divide and rule. And after that, divide into three small provinces like we have now. This is the second policy, and the third policy, and after what we call Anglo-Siam Treaty on 1909. This is officially Patani under Thai authority or Patani under Thai sovereignty. So after that, there are a lot of the fourth policy known as cultural assimilations. Imagine one culture, one country to, for me personally, this is not only the transformation of one country to another country, but this is the transformation of one culture to another culture, one identity to another identity through cultural assimilation from Thai authority.
So it's something like a social engineering, but hasn't really been as successful as the government wanted it to be, it seems like. I want to know, like, what causes the insurgency? How does it spark?
I think basically, the causes, it's happened from the policy, that policy, especially the assimilation one, because at that time, we are Malay, we are Melayu, and then we were forced to adopt all Thai culture. Like, we cannot speak Malay, we cannot wear some Malay clothes, we cannot, like, so many things that we used to do, but then we cannot do. So, from there, people have some anger. People have like developed resentment. That anger, resentment. So, yep, that is basically.
Yeah, actually, there are many causes and root of this insurgency in Patani, and I think these are the main causes. And the another one is because of, like Brother Azmi said before, the historical background. According to the Sayyid Sirajul, in his book named The Politics of Islamic Identity in South Asia, he said that the Patani had been independent kingdom until 1786, and then after that it was conquered by Siamese. And then after that, the effort of Siamese government to subjugate the Patani Muslim people began immediately after its occupation. So after that, there are many policies came out, like transmigration. They bring the Thai Buddhist people from the northern part of Thailand and the other part of Thailand.
And they resettle it in southern Thailand.
In the southern Thailand. And they give the priority to them. So, and I think this is
So it's not just forced assimilation. I think at the end of the day, it's also some sort of human rights concern and economic discrimination and economic negation as well. Because if you're talking about social engineering and forced assimilation, I think the Chinese in Thailand also were forced to thrown away their identity, but they managed to assimilate well, a bit better, I guess. Maybe not 100%, but a bit better, partly because at least economically they are able to have some sort of currency at it. I want to ask Sunny, because she's quite quiet here. What are the human rights violations coming up from the insurgency, and what are the impacts?
Impacts about the human rights. This is have many cases from the violence from the Thai government, and those about the offline areas. And then about the impact, we have some movement or many movement, the student movement and NGOs movement to fight and ask for human rights.
And until now, right?
Yes, until now. And they do about the advancing and campaign. When I got some case and they ask for human rights, so such as the case about when people they will the premise. This premise is about the some of student movement. They're standing by the Patani people and they're working about the peace and human rights and specialize of Patani people and asking for human rights. And then there is the first who come for ask for human rights for the people and to get of violence.
Maybe I can add about the impact and the human rights aspect. As we all know, the violence is actually caused by both sides, the government and also those people who perceive to be the separatists, right? So until now, so far, from 2004 until now, there are like 6,000 people died because of the insurgency, and around like 10,000, more than that, people got injured. And then, but basically, for the impact, the people, the victim are actually innocent people. Yeah, innocent people, both Buddhist and Muslim. It can be either because they support the government or they support the separatist side, or just a people who happen to be in that place when the incident happened. And then From the, if I'm not mistaken, from the Deep South incident database, they said that only in 2015, which is last year, the number of people of civilians who died because of the insurgency are a lot more than those soldiers and separatists actually. So from here we can see that the civilian become the main target of the insurgent most of the time. And then on the something about the human rights, there are some very hot issue currently, which is 3 of the anti-torture activists got detained. It's not got detained. The government took charge on them because they do some research, some report on the torture in the investigation process. Because in Patani, there are a lot of activists who got detained by the government, and because of the martial law in our hometown, there are 2 important laws, which is martial law and emergency law. And those 2 laws,
and this is only in area
in that area. And these 2 laws, they permit soldier to detain a person, like for martial law 7 days, and for the emergency law is 28 days. So in total, it's become 35 days that the government can detain a person. So during that day, the government can
do anything. Literally anything.
Yeah, literally anything.
They can even kill the person.
Yes.
Do they?
Torturing.
And
They cannot kill, because if they kill, then it's gonna be like very
but
big
there are several cases the arrested died during the detention.
Yeah, because they are not allowed to meet with the lawyers, the relative, or other human rights defenders. So with that, it's actually shows that the violation of some human rights have been violated. Because Thailand have ratified some of the human rights convention before, which is the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman and Degrading Treatment and Punishment, which is that one is actually Thailand needs to really protect human rights, but then they didn't do that.
I mean, obviously human rights has become such a big deal in the Deep South in Thailand. I think to further discuss on issues relating to human rights and also to the increased militarization in Southern Thai, we will continue on the second segment of the discussion.
Okay.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene. Welcome to Durian ASEAN, and continuing our discussion today with 4 young Patanis. They are also interns and students in Malaysia, interning at the North-South Initiative. Welcome Azmi, Noorma, Areef and Sunny. How are you guys?
Hi.
So the second segment today, we are going to delve more on the current issues that is happening. Opinion about the current government by Prayut Chan-o-cha. So let's talk about the issues that are happening right now. So what we are seeing is there are a couple of major events happening this year. I think one of it is early this year, some shooting happening nearby or at the hospital, and also some torture claims by rights activists. So perhaps you can share with our audience more about what exactly happened and why.
Okay, one of the tragedy happened in this year is the fighting between separatist group and with the army, with the military. So in this tragedy, what we call the separatist group, they attack to the military camps, but the objective to attack the military camps, but to the mountains, they have to cover for the safety of them. So they go to the hospital for their safety, but in the hospital they didn't shoot any nurse, any doctors, or any patient on the hospital, just for go there as a safety place for them. But for me, this is, violation of the international law as well. But if we look at another side, the military camp shouldn't place on beside of the hospital, because it states clearly that the separatist group, their intention is to attack the military camps. Their intention is not to attack the patient or the doctor. So if we look at their intention, to separatist group, the government should consider the place for military camps, not to place beside the hospital or beside to the villagers to escape from what we call.
But why is this still happening? The insurgency and also the military attacking each other.
Personally, I think that political space for to voice out the right, the voice of people is still lacking. That's why some of the still restriction. That's why some of the people who are like they didn't disagree with the governments, they choose their way to go with with violation action. But if the government open the place for the people to respond or to
have some voice. Maybe it may be lessen in terms of the violence.
And especially you have like additional laws, the martial law, another one is
emergency
the emergency law, which further restrict voices of the people.
Actually, there was one man named Haji Sulung. He made the competition for the government to asking several things for the people in Patani, but all these things were rejected, and the Haji Sulung were accused as the rebel. So I think because of that, at the first time people used the what we call peace mean, but the government never listened them and always reject their voice. So
that
I think
shows
this reason might be make them turn to use the
they just feel
violence.
Like, when they use the peaceful way, then the government don't listen to them. So they have to find other ways to.
So we want more space to express what I feel for my Syria.
So, not being able to voice out concern is one thing, but also on the other end of the spectrum, do you think Thailand is becoming more and more militarized, especially under the Prayut Chan-o-cha government?
I think so. I think so because, if I'm not mistaken, the budget for the military use also increased as well. So I think it's quite, the militarization has increased.
And this is a trend right now. The higher the military spending, obviously, it will create some false sense of stability in the short run, but for the long run, it will build up huge resentment. Also, internationally, we have issues like ISIS that is also affecting people in Southeast Asia, not just in the Middle East. Do you think the more government restriction, it would justify, terrorist group like ISIS to penetrate the younger Muslim in Patani?
Well, in the people opinions, I think if the government are not really genuine in the way they solve the problem, or like they didn't they are not granting some space for the people to voice out what they want in the future. Technically in the future, people may think, some of the terrorist movement may ask for affiliation with the ISIS, but then I think it's quite a bit impossible in that way, because if the terrorist group they show themselves we are affiliate to ISIS, then that will be the reason for the government to try to justify some. The government can do anything after that.
Yeah, they are labeled as
actual terrorists, so the government can do whatever. Even beyond the law, because it's terrorist, it's very prime crime. So I think they might need to avoid that situation to happen. And also, some of the tactic used by the Patani movement are quite different, even though they have some similarity like bombing, shooting and stuff, but then they didn't they don't use something like beheading, rapping or suicide bombings and stuff. So I think it's not really that easy for them to just claim themselves as an affiliation of ISIS.
And at the end of the day, I think the intention of the insurgency in Thailand is very different from ISIS. Yeah. ISIS is an ideology on its own, but when it comes to insurgency in Thailand, it's more about freedom movement. Am I right?
Racial problem.
It's actually about the racial problem. It's not religious problem. So, that's why.
You want to add in? About the racial problem, do you think is on the ground, on the ground between Buddhist Patani and the Muslim Patani, without the military, do you think they actually can interact and be good neighbors with each other?
I think the people have seen of the inequality. So I think if the government treat the people in Patani
equally,
regardless of religion and race, so I think it will be better.
Yeah, if the government just treat them equally, then that's fine, because it's just the discrimination that become very much problem right now.
Even though the policy known as assimilation was abolished or was not remaining in this day, but the impact of this policy still remains. Like, if someone's like the villagers who are like doesn't reaching the level of education or uneducated people, so if they go to the public office, some of them, they were rejected and they were like they were treated differently with the Buddhists. So this kind of issues still remaining and still happening in Patani. So to a solution or to solve the problems, the governments or the authority might consider this kind of issue. The government must like treat the minority Muslims or any other ethnics equally.
So your resentment is not towards the Buddhist community, but towards the government, who unfortunately are using Buddhism as a shield.
Historically, we are living. We were living with the Buddhists peacefully. We don't have any confliction or any tensions each other. So this is from the government. It's not from different religions.
That goes to my next question. Blaming the government is one thing, but also recognizing, is there any change in the government, at least to make the policy a bit better than before? Has it been? Like, maybe from member of parliament or from someone within the government to at least address the issue, to make it less discriminative?
Okay, personally, the most indispensable step for the governments to do right now is to abolish the emergency law and martial law from these regions. Because actually this kind of law is imposing only for during the war, but
but technically it's still at war because of the insurgents. So what is the best way to deal with the insurgents?
By the way, I have experience, my neighbor, during that time, they were not at home, but the military, they come to the home and searching without any court, we call court
warrant.
Yeah, court warrant. So because there's no one in the house, and then the military or the authority could come to the house and then searching without any court warrant. So, this kind of issues.
There's no respect at all to human rights. We will take another short break, and the next round we will talk more about the changing views of Patani youth on the Southern Thai.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene and welcome back again on our discussion at Durian ASEAN. With me are 4 young Patani youth, Azmi, Noorma, Areef and Sunny. Welcome everyone. Hi again. Hi again. So on our third round of discussion, we will focus more on the changing views of Patani youth on Southern Thai. So first of all, incident back in 2004 during the Tak Bai massacre, where of course the world was shocked with so many people perish, and especially under the purview of the Thai government. But since 10 years or maybe 12 years after that, is Southern Thai people, are they any different? What can share?
I think before Tak Bai incidents, there actually not so many movement, like political movement, like calling for this human rights.
So it's an awakening call for people that if you don't do anything, the government will just simply torture and kill you.
Tak Bai become like very turning points that people become, we need to form ourselves in order to call for some right. Yeah, and after that, there are a lot of the NGOs and movement happen because of that.
And I think you guys are one of the youth movement around.
Technically.
So what are the calls since Tak Bai by young Muslim Patani?
Okay, I want to brief a history of Tak Bai a little bit. Tak Bai was held on 2004. The strategy was very, I can say, like massacre of the Muslim. Of the people who go there. These accidents happen because of the governments. The people go and protest at police stations with the demand of release of the young people, teenagers who were arrested by the police by the police because of
the police accused that this young took the gun and give to the separatist group.
So that means the police accuse these young people and then arrest them, and the villagers are from, I don't know from everywhere, but a lot of them, they come to protest and with the demand of to release these young people. And finally, the government broke this demonstration by the violence.
Yeah, by use the violent means. Like some of them were tied. The hand were tied at the back, and then even the hand were tied at the back. The government still beaten them, beat them like so badly. And then also during the process of bringing them to the military camp is quite
inhuman.
It's quite inhuman as well, because they just put those people on
stack
the truck,
it.
and stack it, and so many people died because of suffocating.
Out of 70 eggs were died during the transfer to military
because it's
camp.
quite far.
And another thing, has the government apologized or since do anything about it?
I think during at that time, it's happened during the time of the Thaksin Shinawat. At that time, Thaksin said that people died because they were fasting, instead of saying that it's suffocating and stuff. No.
So since then, they never really actually recognized the human rights violation that had happened.
There is no direct apologize from the government or from the authority in that time, but the apologize come from the later governments. From
Suraya Chulandon, right?
From Sir.
Yeah, Suraya Chulandon after the one after Thaksin.
He did apologize to the people.
And then fast forward to now. Now, unfortunately, you guys are under a military government, which also interestingly is looking at revamping the whole economy of Thailand, including Southern Thai. Interestingly, the news that I received that the Prayut Chan-o-cha government is planning a 6 years economic plan in the Southern Thai, and they are working together with Malaysia and possibly with Singapore as well. What do you guys think about this? Would this be perhaps the beginning of peace process in Thailand, Southern Thai?
I think it's a good thing that the government try to develop the economy in the region, but don't forget that the very important thing is the violation of the human right. So I think the government should provide the basic of the human right to the people first. That so you know how people want to invest in the region if they use martial law and emergency law. It will impact to the economy also.
Yeah, if there's still that kind of thing, the government cannot just simply jump the step and to the economic thing without providing or ensuring some human right basic. Yeah,
I'm totally agree with Areef. Before we further, I'm totally agree with him that you know, it's very nice that the governments try to build these regions to be developing, but as he said that the first step we have to abolish, or we have to add this kind of obstacle for developing. You know, this kind of, like, for example, emergency law or martial law. This is, I can say, like obstacle of developing. So in order to develop, we have to abolish this thing first.
So it should follow a step-by-step process before jumping into a big-scale economic planning. But Sunny, do you feel that this will somehow, I would say, help the Southern Thai people to feel like at least they are valued? Because, you know, at the end of the day, the Thai government is working with Malaysia, who have majority Malays. Do you think it's a good step for Malaysia to jump in and work together?
I think sometimes I think it's a good step because of if they work together with Malay, maybe it's a good because of it's not only the Thai government is not work only because sometimes they must to have an opinion or suggestion from the Malay and work together. And because of that Noorma told before, if the Thai government don't give the more space about the Patani people, maybe the people or also guys don't agree with the economic and co-worker with Malaysia.
Do you think Malaysian government jumping in would somehow soften a bit the Thai government stance?
Yep, I think so. Yeah, because of that similarity in terms of the race. So I think, okay. So we feel like, a bit friendly move approach toward us. It's not just only from the government side only, because some people may have very bad perspective toward the Thai government itself. Yeah.
Talking about perspective, I'm also interested to know about what is the sentiment on the ground, movement in Patani, and with different focus as well. Do you think the sentiments on the ground right now is more towards wanting an autonomous region, something like Aceh, or something like Timor-Leste, where they want to complete divorce themselves from Thailand?
You know, recently there's a movement named PERMAS. They try to promote the term of self-determination. So I think this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So we cannot say that it more on autonomy or more on independence, because some people, they have like very different perspective.
So it's very divided.
Yeah, it's very divided. So the better way is that we live to self-determination, live to
we have
people.
to listen the voice of the people in Patani.
Yeah, let people decide.
I think we need to have a Brexit inside and do a referendum.
Yeah, we hope so. You know, we are waiting for Patani referendum.
What should we call?
Patani seat. There will be
That's it, maybe.
something interesting to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to be speaking with you guys. This is the end of our discussion on the situation in Patani, especially the current insurgency that is happening right now. But I think at the end of the day, to move forward as a nation for Thailand is to recognize what are the historical injustice that had happened, and to somehow empower the community together. Like, you cannot just simply based on
one side,
you cannot just simply put favorable measure for just one party but not the rest. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.